Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa and Internet World. Right here, welcome into the Joe Gaither Show right here on a Thursday. Hope you and yours are having a beautiful Thursday afternoon. It's a beautiful day so far in Tuscaloosa, and we appreciate you guys hanging out with us on the Joe Gaither Show today. Right here on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. You can check out all of our work on BamaCentral.com and make sure you listen to all of our BamaCentral Broadcasting Network podcasts. We've got our friends All Things Bama, Austin Hannon and Katie Wyndham putting out a new episode earlier this week. And we've got our friends Blake Byler and Matthew Gibson doing Blue Collar Unplugged. So check out Blue Collar Unplugged for Alabama basketball related news. Now, I appreciate you guys jumping in and joining me today. You're listening on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, on Amazon Podcasts, really on Audible, wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate you tuning in. Tell a friend about the show. You can look it up, The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, or find me on social media at Joe Gaither 6. Send me your comments, your questions, your queries, and complaints. Let me know what you like or what you hate about the show. It's all good right there at Joe Gaither 6 on virtually all the social media platforms. All right, so what are we going to do today? Well, before we get into what we're going to do today, let's thank our friend Will Miller for joining me yesterday. Will Miller of BamaCentral joined us yesterday for about an hour-long conversation. So if you missed that, you can tune in to Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and the like to catch up with yesterday's episode. On Tuesday, we were joined by Sterling Dixon, linebacker from Mobile Christian High School, committed to the Alabama Crimson Tide. That was a great conversation as well. So we want to thank Will Miller and Sterling Dixon for joining us on Tuesday and Wednesday. Obviously, we're alone today, but tomorrow we're going to be joined by Rodney Orr, Mr. Tider Insider. You can follow him at Tider Insider on the Twitter machine. So we look forward to being joined by Rodney tomorrow. It's actually going to be a great time to have him because Alabama will head into another big recruiting weekend, and Rodney Orr is all over the recruiting side. You guys are probably all subscribers to Title Insider, and so we look forward to hearing from Rodney Orr tomorrow. I cannot wait to hear from him tomorrow. So, hey, appreciate my man James popping in on the comments. You can pop in on the comments on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube if you'd like to do that. So tomorrow we'll have Rodney Orr to kind of get into the next Alabama recruiting weekend. Alabama is going to host another big football recruiting weekend. We'll talk to him about, Sterling's shutting down his commitment and kind of who's next to jump on board to the 2024 class. We look forward to hearing from Rodney Orr tomorrow. All right, so what are we going to do today? What are we going to do today? We've got submarine talk. Well, I want to talk about the submarine. I want to talk about Jaron Stevenson. I want to talk about the NBA draft a lot because obviously tonight is the NBA draft. Alabama football, Bryant-Denny Stadium getting a little bit of a renovation. LSU having a little bit of a punishment coming down. And Colby Shelton has announced where he's going to school. So what are we going to start with, Joe? Roll the dice. Let's start Alabama football. That seems like the easiest, obvious place to start. Alabama football is going under some renovations. The Bryant-Denny Stadium is going under some renovations at the moment, and they're actually interesting. Look, they're not really anything that you, the fan, are going to see or really experience, but the football players absolutely will. If you haven't noticed the news this past week, the administration, the field, the maintenance crew, the field maintenance crew, who does an amazing job, is undertaking a project replacing the grass, replacing the field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. No more ryegrass at Bryant-Denny Stadium. And not only are they replacing the grass, replacing the actual seed and what the grass is, we're transitioning to Northbridge Bermuda grass, which apparently is going to act and respond a lot closer to golf course greens. Coach Saban saying he's not a fan of the ryegrass. But okay, so Alabama's replacing the grass, and that's not neither here nor there to you, the fan. That's not really great, something that either of us or any of us are going to really notice for the next year. But the real reason that they've undertaken this project is they're updating the grass and they're updating the field because they want to make the field compliant with the college football playoff. You guys know in 2024, the college football playoff is expanding to 12 teams, and with that expansion, there is rumors and really suggestions that Alabama there will have home games for that first round. And look, Alabama football, we want to be in the top four. We want to receive a bye. We don't want to play at home games in the first round. We want to be playing, in that next round, the Cotton Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Rose Bowl round before the semifinals, and then before the finals. But on the chance that Alabama ends up at 6, 7, 8, 9 and gets to host a first round game, well, we want Bryant-Denny Stadium to be ready. We want Bryant-Denny Stadium to be ready so that there's no issues. We don't have to, go up to Protective Stadium in Birmingham and play a game, or host a game in Atlanta because our stadium and our field is not compliant. We are installing sub-air systems in the field that are really reminiscent and kind of inspired by Augusta National, inspired by the Masters. You saw this past year watching the Masters, rained all day on that Saturday. It was just ugly golf on that Friday and Saturday. But the golfers really were able to play relatively okay and relatively normal around around the rain because of the drainage system that is in place at Augusta. And John DeWitt, who is in charge of the field and maintenance systems at the University of Alabama, is basically implementing the same systems at Bryant-Denny Stadium. So you get a day of heavy rain. You all remember what, 3 years ago, Alabama brought in a couple of helicopters to try to dry out the field ahead of a huge rainstorm. Well, Alabama's not going to have to do that now. The drainage system will have heaters and will basically be able to pinpoint areas of water buildup and really be able to maintain and keep the playing surface pristine. Yeah, my man James saying at least they aren't going to turf. Exactly right. They're going to, one more time, Northbridge Bermuda grass, and it is USGA certified. Coach Saban is happy to move away from the ryegrass. I'm imagining it'll have a little bit more grip, and the players will feel a little bit faster. And the best thing for you guys, the fan, and for us, the college football consumer, is that if it ends up having a rainy day in Tuscaloosa, a monsoon day, the field will be much less affected. The field will be easier to play on, and so great. We're spending a lot of money, but I think that we'll have practical benefits right here in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Really, you might see those practical benefits in 2 years. Alabama hosting a playoff game because we're one of the few schools that is compliant already. So we're trying to get ahead of the curve, trying to plan on being a part of those college football playoff games. And obviously, John DeWitt is doing a great job. I want to give him a shout out. He's one of my buddies from church, and he's doing a great job leading the charge, replacing the field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. I saw an interview of him, and they asked, "Oh, what if it's not ready in 72 days when Alabama hosts MTSU?" And he looked like, that's not an option. That's crazy. He said, it will be ready. We will be finished. No one wants to be the reason that Nick Saban is upset. No one wants to be the reason that the Alabama fan base is upset and that we don't have football. He said, we will be ready in 72 days for MTSU coming to town. So, just a quick little football topic right there to get us rolling on the day. All right, what's the real news? What's the real moment? What's the real kind of going on, happening today in the sports world? It's the NBA Draft. The NBA Draft tonight at 7 p.m. on ESPN, ABC, the ESPN family of networks. We're going to be covering it right here for BamaCentral.com. Our man Blake Byler leading the charge, and I'm going to try to get on, trying to follow his lead and help out as much as I can. But follow our coverage at BamaCentral.com. We'll be doing live updates. We'll be following where Brandon Miller, Noah Clowney, and Charles Bediako end up in tonight's draft. And look, we've led into tonight's draft the last couple of weeks a lock. It was a lock that Brandon Miller was going number 2. Well, it's now draft day, and the story gets flipped on its head. Just like last year, just like Blake Byler told us 2 weeks ago on the program when he joined us. He said, "No, Joe, I don't believe. I cannot take that number 2 overall pick. I cannot take that lock report to heart because you never know what's going to happen with the NBA draft." And I said, "Blake, no, he's going to go number 2. Well, Blake Byler knows exactly what he was talking about. And now we wake up this morning to reports of Scoot Henderson getting that number 2 overall selection by the Charlotte Hornets, not Brandon Miller. What? Charlotte, you really wouldn't do that, would you? Actually, Charlotte saw Brandon Miller's answer yesterday, said, oh, you said Paul George is your GOAT, not LeBron or Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan called down and said, hey, we cannot draft this kid if he doesn't respect me. So he got pushed off their draft board. No, that's not true. That's not what happened. I'm just being facetious, trying to be silly. But no, Brandon Miller, we wake up to reports. This is true that Charlotte is now preferring Scoot Henderson from the G League Ignite. We all know that Scoot Henderson was kind of flirting with the Auburn Tigers and ended up going to G League Ignite. What does this mean for Brandon? Brandon, if you end up not going to Charlotte, firstly, from a basketball standpoint, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a great thing. You go to Portland, you can help out Damian Lillard. You go to a place where I think you will be more competitive quicker. Now, I don't know that either program, Charlotte or Portland, will put him into championship position over the course of a 4 or 5 year rookie career. But look, I would much prefer to be in Portland just to play with Damian Lillard and really just the West Coast. I would prefer to be out in Portland with their food scene, and it just seems like a cooler area. And you can be more competitive, I feel like, in the Western Conference quicker. Exactly, James. He should be thrilled if he goes to Portland. Charlotte's cap, and maybe Charlotte putting out reports today. There's no reason really for Charlotte to lie. There's no really reason for Charlotte to lie because if Charlotte's lying and says, yeah, we're taking Scoot Henderson, but they actually go Brandon Miller tonight, there's no real reason for them to lie. There's nobody competing for them for any of their selections. They know they're not getting Victor Wembanyama. San Antonio basically turned in the car the day after they got their lottery ball picked out. So it's basically Charlotte's draft to choose what they want to do. They can dictate the draft. There's no reason for Charlotte to lie. I think that, at this point, 6 hours ahead of the draft, I think we will see Scoot Henderson go number 2. I'm going to trust Shams Shinari's, pivot. He working for the Athletics. Shams, obviously an NBA insider. He's now basically saying that they're pivoting to Scoot Henderson. Well, what can happen for Brandon is this. He goes to Portland, and it can be an interesting situation because you look at other mock drafts and you see, let's go to CBS. CBS has Noah Clowney going 23 to Portland. Portland Trailblazers have a few first-round draft picks. Have Portland going 23, Noah Clowney. Well, you'll see SB Nation has Brooklyn taking Noah Clowney at 22. Golden State has... Yahoo.com has Golden State taking Noah Clowney at 19. So our conversations earlier in the week of Noah Clowney, where's he going to go, all the way as high as 12 and all the way as low as 40, you're starting to squeeze into a closer range. You're starting to get a better idea of where Noah Clowney is going to end up getting drafted, and you're starting to get an idea of why he was invited into the green room. If he's in anywhere between 19 and 25, then of course he's invited. Of course you see why he's invited into the green room, because he's basically a lock for a first-round pick. We all know Golden State just allowed, Draymond Green to decline his player option. Would Noah Clowney be a good fit, a good addition to Golden State to replace Draymond Green? I think it would be. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Look, Noah Clowney, no, he doesn't have, as nasty streak as Draymond Green does, but he's a hell of a rebounder. He's a heck of a rebounder, and I think he can probably defend 2 through 4, maybe 2 through 5 at the NBA level. 3 and 4 for sure, maybe 3 and 5. But look, I think Noah Clowney presents an interesting presents an interesting case, and especially if Brandon Miller gets passed over at number 2. Your focus really goes on Portland at 3. Portland drafting Brandon Miller at 3, and then going, possibly, it would be so cool. Look, we all know Alabama's love and affinity for the New Orleans Pelicans based off of Kyra Lewis and Herb Jones down there. If Portland walks away with both of their first-round draft picks being Brandon Miller and Noah Clowney, you might see us, adopting the Portland Trailblazers West as kind of the Alabama darling franchise of the NBA Western Conference. That'd be a lot of fun. The real question to me, we all know Brandon is going in the top 5. We all know that. That's not really a debate. If he goes number 2 or if he goes number 3, great, good for you. You're going to make a lot of money. You're probably going to have a great NBA career. And I believe that pretty confidently that Noah Clowney is going in the first round. I think these mock drafts, as you get closer and closer to draft time, Whether they get the right selection, player to team right, I think they get the right, area. This player is a top 15 pick. This player is a top 20 pick. So to see some of these mock drafts settle on Noah Clowney in the high teens, low 20s, I think that's probably exactly where you're going to see him go tonight. And so that's great. So I feel like, all right, we're pretty much got a guy going in the top 5, got a guy going in the early 20s. What the heck is going to happen with Charles Bediako? What the heck is going to... look, Bediako was a guy who goes into the draft and everybody said, oh, he's just going to get evaluated and he's going to come right back. Well, he decides to stay in the draft, and it created a fairly sizable hole on the Alabama roster, a hole that Nate Oates has already gone out and filled with Grant Nelson and Jaron Stevenson. Very, very, Nice pivot, Coach Oates. But so what happens with Bediako? He's very unlikely, in my opinion, to be drafted in the top 60 this evening. Someone has obviously promised him either we're taking you in the second round or we're going to offer you a 2-way contract after the draft. Someone has told him, one of these 30 franchises has given him assurances that he's going to be on a roster getting a 2-way deal. There's no way he decides to stay in the NBA draft without at least the assurance of a 2-way contract. You ask, what's a 2-way contract, Joe? Well, it's where you offer a prospect a 2-way contract and he can play on your G League affiliate and your NBA program. It's what happened to J.D. Davison. J.D. Davison did get drafted, but he signed a 2-way contract with the Boston Celtics. He ended up with the Hartford Celtics, the Maine Celtics, their G League affiliate. He played for their G League affiliate throughout the year, and I think he played. He played in 7 or 8 games for the big time Boston Celtics. So it allowed him to play both ways, both for the G League team and the professional team. It allows you to bounce back and forth an unlimited amount of time during that season, and it allows you to really develop and kind of let the franchise see, okay, can this guy make the fringe of our roster, or does he need to develop in the G League? So look, I think Charles Bediako is probably the most intriguing prospect tonight, because you're going to find out who made him the promises. And look, I'm biased on Alabama. I'm absolutely biased on Alabama, but I think that Charles could have come back and had another strong season. Might have been SEC Defender of the Year. Got himself into a second-round pick and made some guaranteed money. But Chuck, you made your decision, and we support you. I hope that you can, make a great career for yourself. I enjoyed watching you over 2 years here at the University of Alabama. Look, he is what he is. Charles is. He's going to be a rim protector in the league. He needs to put on 15 more pounds. He would have been that here at Alabama. He would have been that in the league. It doesn't matter. I guess ultimately it doesn't matter. He can put on those 15 pounds with a G League affiliate or not. I think Charles Bediako is probably about maxed out what his skill set is as far as offensively goes. Now, he's going to get better defensively, more disciplined with his hand placement. Obviously, he's going to get a little quicker and get a little better with his feet. I think Charles is a really interesting prospect tonight. Where is he going to end up going? Because not only does he need to have assurances of where he's going to end up going into the draft, but he's got to feel good about his opportunity with that franchise. You can't go to a franchise that already has a bunch of big men. Like, look, if he goes to Boston, and they already got Taco Fall in the tank, they already got Robert Williams in the tank. You got to go to a place that needs a big man. You got to go to a place that's going to get you on the floor. Sooner rather than later, I believe. So, Charles, I'm pulling for you to get some good news tonight. I'm pulling for you to get some good news tonight, but I'm a little apprehensive. Oh, look. No, I'm going to disagree. Bama isn't going to be as good next year. No, after Nate Oates' recruiting trail, we got Facebook commenter James Bama. He ain't going to be as good as he wanted to go out on a high note. Maybe. I think if Charles had come back, this team, especially what you got going on, what you hit in the transfer portal, this team would be so loaded. I can't wait for this Alabama basketball team, and that's a perfect transition. Yesterday, Yesterday, Jaron Stevenson commits to Alabama. And you ask, oh, Jaron Stevenson, who the heck is that? Jaron Stevenson is a 5-star prospect in the class of 2024. But what he did, he reclassified into the 2023 class, which obviously is not going to be a 5-star prospect in the new class because you're moving up a year, you're skipping a grade. He's enrolling at the University of Alabama, 6'10", skinny boy. I think I had him at 210. Jaron Stevenson. I think I had him at 210. He's, oh my gosh, skinnier than that. Yeah, 6'10", 200 pounds. So right there as a junior high school, you're going to have to put on some weight, my mans. But Nate Oates has basically filled out the roster for this next year, 2023, capping it off with Jaron Stevenson's commitment yesterday. You ask, oh my gosh, you still have one open scholarship, Nate. Why don't we go out and fill that? Well, it's probably going to be a situation that's very similar to last year, where you leave that scholarship open throughout the rest of the year just in case something happens. Look, you're not going to convince somebody to come in and play that 13th scholarship position because of the competition is already very high. You have filled out your backcourt. You're going to have one of the best backcourts in the league, in the SEC, and you're probably going to have one of the best backcourts in the entire nation next year. With the addition of bringing in Grant Nelson, you already know Nick Pringle is developing as a postman, and then you're bringing in Jaron Stevenson. You're going to have to use those guys. It's going to be hard to convince someone to come in on that 13th spot. I think you're pretty much done. I think the roster's set. And I think the roster looks good. I think you're looking at a preseason top 15 team, and look, think about where we were last year going into the season. You were 17, 24 in that range. I think you had every bit of optimism that you have last year. Now, you don't have the one and done player. You're not going to have the highlight player that you had in Brandon Miller. No, but I think you have a huge bevy of experience, obviously with JQ and Aaron Estrada and Latrell Wright. So I think you have a massive upgrade in the experience department with Grant Nelson coming from North Dakota State. You have really, I think the talent has been about on par, but I think that you have increased the maturity and the experience on your roster. Is that a lesson that Nate Oates learned from losing to San Diego State last year? San Diego State with like 8 guys, 8 super seniors. I think they had 4 or 5 super seniors. Their roster was loaded with upperclassmen and experience. So maybe that's a page Nate Oates is taking out of the San Diego State playbook. Now, look, and we think that Nate Oates is still a young coach. He's still a young coach developing and learning from mistakes. So I say, hey, look, you prioritize older players in the transfer portal. You prioritize players who were, conference players of the year at smaller conferences. I'm really looking at, like, you all know, I love Bama hoops dearly. And I'm excited about Bama football. I am. But after getting Jaron Stevenson and Grant Nelson, still yet to be official, but Grant Nelson is still expected to transfer to the Crimson Tide, I think this basketball team was reloaded in a beautiful way. You've got to give Nate Oates a lot of credit. Losing likely 2 first-round draft picks. Losing a surprise in Charles Bediako. Losing all 3 assistant coaches to head coaching positions. And you've replaced 2 of the 3 assistants, and you've gone out and hit the transfer portal in a heavy way, really bringing in guys that Alabama fans and this program can be excited about. Look, people talk about, oh my gosh, Nate Oates is the one and done kind of, is it just a one-year wonder with Brandon Miller? I think Coach Oates is just, look, I'd give him a lifelong contract if I could. I really would. I love his approach to the game. I love his hard work, his energy. He recruits his tail off. He takes the Nick Saban approach of recruiting to basketball. We want to recruit at a high level. We want to utilize the transfer portal for players who can immediately help us. We want to promote players straight into the NBA. And that's something that you're going to see tonight. Okay, here's your little tidbit. Since Nate Oates took over, 4 Alabama players have been drafted. Only 6 teams have had more drafted players in that time. Duke, Kentucky, Arizona, Gonzaga, Auburn, and Florida State. After tonight, Alabama is expected to have 2 more first-round draft picks. And so you're going to have, that'll take you up to 4 first-round draft picks. Only one program since 2020, since Nate Oates has been hired at the University of Alabama, has had more first-round draft picks. Can you guess who it is? No, it's not Kentucky. Or no, it's not Duke. No, it's not North Carolina. I'm sitting here reading that it is Kentucky, and it slips out of my head. It slips out of my tongue fine for Joe for reading the internet wrong. It's Kentucky. Kentucky has 5 first-round draft picks in the same time that Nate Oates will have his 4. Now, granted, you still have to get both guys drafted tonight. Noah Clowney's going to have to sneak into the first round. But for Nate Oates to have the second most first-round draft picks in college basketball since he was hired here at the University of Alabama, come on, that's just a hell of a thing to walk into living rooms and say. It helps you with recruiting in a massive fashion, and I just cannot wait to see really. I cannot wait to see Nate Oates continue to build this program and to continue to bring in high-level recruits. Looking forward to seeing Trey Jones. Trey Jones coming into the pipe in 2025. Hopefully, the nation's number 1 overall player, considering the Alabama Crimson Tide down to his top 8 schools, and Alabama is in it. So Trey Jones hopefully becomes the next Brandon Miller, following the footsteps of the one and dones. All right, here we go. We're about midway through here. I need a little coffee sip, so why don't we let Andrew Luck tell you?
Hey, everybody. Happy June. Hey everybody, happy June.
Happy June indeed. June 22nd. Happy Thursday. Where are we at on our notes? We hit a little Jaron Stevenson. We hit Scoot Henderson. Where will Noah Clowney go? Shams Charania. I love that last name, even though it trips me up every time. Shams Charania. Bama Field getting repaired. All right, let's one more, 2 more topics close to home, and then we'll go off script. LSU football and basketball gets 3 years probation based off of scandal from the Ed Orgeron time and from the Will Wade time. Doesn't matter. What's the big deal? Obviously, LSU already self-imposed their bowl bans for their time in 2020. They're vacating some scholarships, and they're vacating 37 wins on the football side from 2012 to 2015. And let me just tell you, vacating wins is the most pointless punishment of all time. The most pointless punishment. The most pointless punishment in the world. Because, look, we're going to scratch Reggie Bush's Heisman Trophy from the record. Oh, okay. They scratch a bunch of wins off of Bobby Bowden's record. They scratched some wins off Nick Saban's record, the textbook scandal, 2007, 2008 here in Alabama. They scratched wins off of they scratched wins off of Joe Paterno's record at Penn State. But college football historians know, college football fans know. We know that LSU won those 37 games between 2012 and 2015. We know that Alabama won those, 7 or 8 games in 2007 when the textbook scandal happened. We know Reggie Bush won the Heisman Trophy in, 2005, 2006. We know that. I saw that with my own 2 eyes. I saw those victories with my own 2 eyes. I don't care what the record book says as far as NCAA record book. We're going to vacate these wins. They don't turn those wins into losses. They just turn them into no contests. So, look, LSU slap on the wrist. Will Wade gets, 2-year show cause and 10-game suspension at his new school. Big bleeping deal for Will Wade. His new school knew that he was going to get in trouble. He's going to have to serve a little bit of a punishment. It's not going to, in the age of NIL, show causes and scholarship bans don't matter. Look, if I'm Alabama and you take away all my scholarships, but I raise the money in NIL, what's the difference? It's no difference. It doesn't matter whether it's an academic scholarship or the boosters paying the $25,000, $35,000, $40,000 for them to make it on campus. The scholarship count does not matter anymore in college basketball, college football. It really doesn't matter in college baseball. I mean, you think, 11.7. No way. Florida, Vanderbilt, these high-level programs are not operating on 11.7. They're creating their own scholarships based off their boosters. And so, yeah, Will Wade, LSU, you all get in trouble. You get your slap on the wrist from the NCAA. I don't care because the NCAA, you're powerless. You're like you have no teeth here. It doesn't matter. The NIL, I think, is really neutered the NCAA, and so they're just trying to hold on to whatever power they can. Great, you lose 37 games off of your win total for LSU, but ultimately none of the Cajun fans, none of the Bayou Bengal fans, care. They all remember those experiences, or they probably don't remember those experiences. Too much moonshine in Death Valley for those nights. But come on, it doesn't matter. We're going to vacate every win Alabama ever had. Who cares? We all know that we all know the history on the Alabama Crimson side. Well, we're going to vacate every national championship Alabama ever has. It will not stop the Alabama Crimson Tide fan base from claiming 18 national championships, slapping the 18 on every logo that they get. We don't care what the NCAA says, how many wins, how many national championships, who won the Heisman Trophy. We watched it with our own eyes. You can't retroactively go back and we're going to take away Reggie Bush's Heisman Trophy. Okay, well, who won it in 06? You don't got any answers? Yeah, because it was Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush was the best player in college football, and we all remember it. We all saw it with our own two eyes. All right, that takes me to one more Bama topic, and before we go off the wall, we're going to go with Kobe Shelton. We talked about Kobe Shelton yesterday with our friend Will Miller. Kobe Shelton, obviously Alabama third baseman, freshman, led the team in home runs this past year. 25 home runs, seventh in the nation in home runs this past year. Hit the transfer portal, a day or two after the official conclusion of the season. Breaks my heart. Kobe Shelton, just minutes before we go live on the program on the Joe Gaither Show right here on BamaCentral. Kobe Shelton takes to Twitter and announces he is headed to Florida Gators, his home state. That was kind of the speculation. Oh, that was kind of my speculation and my worry. I was hoping he would go to Miami or Florida State. I kind of had a feeling that he would go back to his home state. But Kobe Shelton doesn't go to Miami. He doesn't go to Florida State. He stays in the SEC. He's going to play third base for the Florida Gators now for the next 2 years before he gets drafted very highly. And man can rake. Man can smack the baseball. Now, of course, he did have a tendency to chase pitches, but come on, you're a freshman, first year in college baseball. Who am I to condemn you for chasing pitches? You're also smacking the cover off the ball. 25 home runs, 51 RBIs. I can live with a couple bad strikeouts, a handful of bad strikeouts. Now, what is going to break my heart, what makes me sad, this goes back into the previous conversation with NIL. Look, Kobe Shelton realized I just hit the 7th most home runs in a season in college baseball. I'm valuable. I am more valuable than I am being treated here in Tuscaloosa. Look, I love Tuscaloosa, and I love all the fans and all the boosters, but we know that the NIL money and the support behind the Alabama baseball program is not where it needs to be. It's not like it is at Florida. It's not like it is at Vanderbilt. It's not like it is at Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and other baseball-starving communities. So Kobe Shelton hits the transfer portal, and I'm sure he got a bag and a half to go down to Florida to hit home runs for the Florida Gators for the next 2 years. Look, if he puts up 50 home runs in 2 years, that's great. That's what they're paying for. Who am I to condemn an athlete for, taking a better opportunity? Who am I to condemn someone for jumping ship and taking a better opportunity? I mean, look, would I love to see him in Tuscaloosa? 100%. I'd be supporting, I'd be cheering for him. I'd be, writing about him and covering him up for the next 2 years. I'm very excited about that. But I can recognize he gets an opportunity to go to Florida, a place where he's going to be appreciated, probably 10 to 15% more. He probably got himself a relatively nice raise. He probably is taking care of his bank account. And look, we all know opportunities are hard to come by. Opportunities are difficult to come by. Kobe Shelton could play very well for the next 2 years and be drafted very highly in Major League Baseball and turn into a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer. He could. He could be smacking the cover off the ball at the Major League level for the next 15 years. Or he could go to Florida for 2 years, play well, collect his money, and be stuck in the minor leagues because it just never clicks for him. I don't really see that happening. I don't see that as what's most likely, but it is possible. He could become these next couple of years in college baseball could be his best seasons ever as a baseball player. So you capitalize when you can. You capitalize at the level that you can. If somebody were to come to me and says, "Hey Joe, you are a good 8th grade football player. We want to pay you to be on our 9th grade team," I would have done it because look, my 9th grade, that was the peak. That was the peak of my athletic career. No one would have paid me to be on their high school football team. But as I was a pretty good little 9th grader. Kobe Shelton, you never know when you're going to get to pass. You never know how the competition is going to go. you go ahead and take your money now. I don't really fault you for going to Gainesville. I don't fault you for taking your money. I don't fault you for leveraging your good season. Great season. Not good season, great season. You led the Tide in home runs. You were third, I think, in the SEC. If my memory is right, third in the SEC in home runs. I know he was seventh in the nation in home runs. So you capitalize in that. You capitalize off your good season. And does it stink that he can't just capitalize it? Does it stink that he can't capitalize it right here in Tuscaloosa? Yes, it does. Julian, you're right. Money is not everything, but you only have a finite amount of time to capitalize off your skills from a Bama baseball perspective. Now, if he goes to Gainesville, has a good 2 seasons, he can make himself a nice little living, a nice little career, and create a nice community in Gainesville as well. It's just the nature of the beast. It's just the nature of college baseball. You got to go support the Grand Slammers. Go support Yay Alabama if you don't want this to happen. Sign up for the Grand Slammers. Let them know that you don't want. Let them know that you don't want guys like Colby Shelton to be leaving in the future. I think Alabama is on the precipice of jumping into that upper echelon of baseball where we're not losing these guys. But right now, we're still on the edge of the Floridas, of the Vanderbilts, of the Mississippi States, where the NIL money is really, really high. And so Colby, he announces he's going to Florida. It's going to stink. Like, I will be sick every time he steps up to the plate. I will. Every time he steps up to the plate against Alabama, I'll be sick. And personally, I mean, a little part of me might hope for an Alabama player to plunk him in the hip. Plunk him right in the hip to say, "Oh, screw you for leaving us." But no, that's just the fan in me. The objective journalist realizes exactly what he's doing, and I do think that he's making the right choice for himself. All right, I want to go off script with 2 topics. One of them is not sports. One of them is sports, but has nothing to do with Alabama and has nothing to do with an Alabama sport at all. Look, you guys, are you familiar with Stephen F. Austin? Stephen F. Austin out there in Texas, I believe. Stephen F. Austin. Yeah, out there in Nacogdoches, Texas. Oh my gosh, how did I say that correctly? All right, they had a scandal this week. A scandal in their athletic department that just blew my mind. And look, like, all right, if you are familiar with with my content from other shows, I love scandals. I love it. I think it's crazy. So much fun. It's what makes sports a lot of fun. Stephen Lemke. Stephen Lemke is a bowling assistant coach for the University of SF Austin. Stephen F. Austin. And Steve Lemke is not a bowling coach anymore. He has been fired or has resigned from his position. Why? Because Lemke, what are you doing, you idiot? What are you doing? Lemke, 38 years old, is caught having an affair with one of his bowlers, one of his athletes. He's the assistant bowling coach for the Stephen F. Austin women's bowling team. He's married to the head coach. The head coach hires him. And essentially over the course of a handful of years, I don't know how this happens, he slips into an affair with one of the bowlers. First off, look, do not. What's the old phrase? Don't use the bathroom where you eat. Don't use the bathroom where you eat. Don't mix business with pleasure. Don't mix, any of those phrases work right here. Look, don't do it. It sounds, it reminds me, it's reminiscent of the Auburn softball scandal where the Auburn assistant softball coach ended up in some sort of a sexual relationship with one of the Auburn players a couple of years back. He was the son of the head coach, not the husband of the head coach. This is just weird, man. It's just so strange. Like, I know you're on the road together. You're always together. I realize when you're in a college environment and you're always in the same proximity, you're spending so much time together, both in bowling and on the road, and academics, relationships happen. But you gotta be more mature than this. You're 38 years old. I know this as a 33-year-old, and look, I love the ladies. They're very beautiful. I understand that. We're looking for, a future Mrs. Gaither. That's great. But come on. I'll tell you this. There ain't no future Mrs. Gaither working at BamaCentral right now. I promise you that. There ain't no... And look, I love the BamaCentral people. Dude, love that. But, we're all just co-workers. You don't mix business with pleasure. And think even worse. Look, I cover lots of attractive ladies on the Alabama athletic program, but they it's part of the job that you don't cross those lines. Steve Lemke, and the worst part about this, Lemke, was not the fact. I mean, it should be the worst part about this. Should be yes, you crossed those lines. You broke you broke the trust of the parents who have sent their daughters to SF Austin to, one, get an education, and two, be coached at a good level, to have a college scholarship. You cross the line between a teacher and student, coach and athlete. You cross that line. But what's worse is my man's quotes. My man's quotes are saying, his quote, Steve Lemke, I knew it was kind of a no-no, but there's not a rule saying it can't happen. There's not a law saying I'm going to jail for doing something like this. There's nothing set in stone. I guess it's just an ethics code, like we frown upon it. But there's no rule. There's no law broken. Are you serious? Like, okay, you don't have to write it into law. You don't have to write this into law, man. This is common sense. This is simple nature. These ladies are in your care. These women are in your care because, one, they want a college scholarship. They want an education. Two, they want to be competitive. And Stephen F. Austin, gave them an opportunity. You have marred and put a cloud of trouble over their college experiences. Not only over the athlete who has engaged in this affair, but the teammates. You got to think this wasn't a secret. I'm sure that Sally talked to Susie, and Susie talked to Sarah, and Sarah talked to Samantha, and everybody talks and figured out that, oh my gosh, Sally is sleeping with the coach? What the heck? It's unbelievable to me, just the depth of stupidity, the depth of immaturity, the depth of lack of... look, I know that I am attracted to the ladies. You just got to understand time and place, situation. No one I cover, no athlete I cover is eligible for me to say, hey, you want to go out to dinner? It's ridiculous. And so how did this start? You have no idea. You have no idea how it started. I'm sure it was a late night, a text message, a look here, a look there. It's unbelievable. It's ridiculous. Oh, it makes me... as someone who likes college athletics, it's unbelievable. It's insane. It's pure insanity. Really. Look, my father's a high school coach, coaches women and boys. You just don't do it. No place do you do this as a coach. And let's just flip it. It's Pride Month. Let's flip it. Let's get weird here. Let's flip it. Let's say that these guys are. Let's say there's a male on a male team, and there's homosexuality involved. Not something like, all right, it's weird. It's lines that you don't cross. Come on, you just do not cross. I'm in power. You are my student. You are my you're my player. You are my subordinate. You're my intern. You're my, some sort of levels below me. And I want to create or initiate a sexual a relationship with you, even if you're married or not. And this man was. You're married to the head coach. It's just so messy. It's so messy. It blows my mind. It blows my mind. So come on, guys. And so obviously the guys resigned. The athlete who was in question is out of eligibility. So the athlete is not going to be continue her athletic career. And to wrap a bow on the story, the head coach and the assistant have filed for divorce. The assistant basically said that the head coach, the wife, abused him over the course of 10 years. Their 10-year marriage. Come on. I understand inequities in marriage. I get that. Sometimes you're pulling more weight than your partner. I get that. He talks about, I babysat the kids while they were on the road. Dude, you're the father. You're not babysitting the kids. You are fathering your children. He talks about, when she hired me as an assistant coach, she overworked me, using me as to cover the kids and to run practices. This guy just sounds like a total sleazeball. He sounds like a total sleazeball who has no ethics and no morals. If you didn't want to be married, that's one thing. If you're having problems in your marriage and you want to step out of your marriage, all right, that's another thing. It's something I don't, that's another thing. But then to choose to step out of your marriage with a player on your roster, a subordinate figure. I mean, because that's what they are. That's what they are in terms of, hierarchy. The athlete is the subordinate. I know we're in the age of athletes' power, but it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. You couldn't have just got on a dating app and just picked a Susie or Sally from the town that is enrolled at Stephen F. Austin, that doesn't that you don't control their playing time or you don't control their athletic future. It's unbelievable. You gotta imagine the favoritism that played in there. Just complicated situation. So yeah, we like to get into the weird topics. We haven't gotten into too many weird topics on the new edition of the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com, just because we like to keep it right here focused on Alabama. But I'll always love the scandalous and the weird because it just blows my mind. It makes me just fascinated, the decision making that some of these guys and girls do. You are a college coach. You probably have a healthy salary coaching a college sport. And yes, it's not easy. It's not easy to coach a college sport. It's not easy to coach any sport at the youth level or anyone. It takes a lot of dedication. But I'm sure you're getting paid. I'm sure he was getting paid. Steve Lemke, yes, was getting paid at a very fine rate. Just to throw it all away. If you don't want to work in college athletics, you don't have to. If you don't want to be married, you don't have to. Oh gosh, to take that step to get involved sexually with a subordinate is absolutely unfathomable for me. All right, last topic for the day, and we will keep it off the wall. We got to talk about the submarine. You guys have been watching the submarine, going to look for the Titanic all week long. It's captured the hearts and minds of the nation. I don't know if that's actually the right word and phrase to say it. Captured the hearts and minds. I think I've absolutely been paying attention to it. But look, guys, you don't want to make light of death. I don't want to make light of death. But these people did not make a smart decision. That's just all it comes down to. Obviously, I wish and I would hope for a rescue to be possible. I don't feel like it is. It seems like notes coming out today that maybe there've been some debris spotted or found in the area of where the sub was diving. Come on, guys. If you're going to pay this much money to get into a submarine that's pretty much built in a backyard, more or less built in a lab, built to substandard levels. We'll say that. I don't want to criticize anybody's work too much, but you're going to get into a submarine that's built to substandard levels, and then you're going to go to depths, inhumane depths. Like the Titanic is not just 12 feet down at the bottom of the pool. Inhumane depths of the ocean, and you're going to test yourselves. Yes, I'll be the first one to say it'd be cool to see the Titanic in person, but I can Google it up. And look at clips and see the wreckage on Google. And you know what? That's just got to be good enough for me. It has to be. I could not imagine. I can't imagine what's going on in the minds of the passengers. The minds of the passengers as everything is unfolding. They're realizing, oh my gosh, this PlayStation controller has broken, or we're not getting any power, we're not getting any life anymore in this vehicle. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And as the minutes go by, they look at the engineer, they look at the pilot, they look at everybody around here, and they look at, oh my gosh, nobody has any answers. We're just waiting. Got to be a disparaging feeling. Got to be a feeling full of despair. And so yes, on one hand, it's very easy to make jokes. It is very easy to make jokes, and I have to admit that I've been guilty of making jokes with some of my friends, and that's not the right way to go. But I admit that I've been guilty of that. So look, we gotta be smarter about this, people. We got to not. Come on. You can't go down to the inhumane depths in a dryer drum. Come on, people. Oh, my Lord. Well, absolutely, you're praying for the best outcome. You're praying for the best outcome. You don't expect it to come through. I think I don't know that I believe the reports about banging sounds. I think that was probably just to create some hope amongst the people. But you just got to take lessons from this. Not everything, I don't know. I talked about it with my therapist this past week about trying to do more things and be more exciting and do exciting things. We talk about skydiving and rock climbing and riding motorcycles. And those things are cool, fun. They sound like fun. I don't really think that going to the depths of the ocean is on my bucket list. And so, yeah, we're going to continue to pay attention to this story, and we're going to watch it the rest of the week, and hopefully, maybe a miracle happens. Maybe it does. I have a harder time, feeling too terrible for them because of just the absurdity. You're going to pay $250,000 to ride in basically a dryer drum? I don't know. Maybe I don't have a sense of adventure enough for that. Maybe I don't have an appreciation of the Titanic enough. I have a great friend, Taylor. If you're watching this, love you, dude. Taylor loves the Titanic and spent some time. You guys may have seen the Gatlinburg Titanic Museum getting some notoriety on social media this week because of this story. My man Taylor worked at that museum for a couple years. That's the way to do it. You want to experience the Titanic? Those tour guides will put you right inside the Titanic. You don't have to look at wreckage. You don't have to risk your life. You can walk right through the museum in Gatlinburg. It's a great way to experience it. I don't know, man. You just got to make smarter decisions. And so it's very interesting to me that this story has captured so many people. Is it because of the billionaire aspect? Is it because of the tragedy? Is it because of the kind of MacGyver aspect of the submarine? I don't know. I think it's a mixture of all of it. Obviously, the Titanic is very, very intriguing to just the general public. It always has been. Just this story. That story is so crazy to me. Man, so wild to me. I pray for those families, the families who really, because look, I think the passengers. I don't mean to be the bearer of the bad news. I think the passengers have probably passed away at this point. The prayers are with the families of the passengers, realizing, oh my gosh, my father, my mother, my brother, my family member has probably experienced a terrible death and really has experienced a terrible death in front of the entire world. And so that's got to weigh on those people as well. So we pray for those people. I really appreciate everybody who's joined me today. I really appreciate all the conversation. Look, we're going to be watching the NBA draft tonight. We're wrapping it up with the NBA draft tonight at 7 p.m. You can watch us on BamaCentral.com. My man Blake Byler is going to be running a live blog. We'll see where Brandon Miller ends up going. Is he going to go number 2, like has been projected for the last several weeks? Or will Shams Charania, with his reports that the Charlotte Hornets are pivoting off of Brandon Miller onto Scoot Henderson? Will those come true and Brandon Miller fall to number 3? You'll have to watch it tonight on ABC, ESPN, and keeping up with it on BamaCentral.com. We'll watch where Brandon Miller goes. We'll be keeping up with Noah Clowney. And really, my most intriguing prospect is what happens with Charles Bediako. Will he be drafted, or will he sign a 2-way contract very, very quickly after the draft? I think that's going to be the real intriguing story of the Alabama basketball angle for the NBA draft tonight. I want to remind you, tomorrow we'll be joined by Rodney Orr, Mr. Title Insider. Rodney and I ran a little test run earlier today just to make sure that the connection would work out well. I'm looking forward to talking to Rodney because Rodney's been covering Alabama football and basketball and athletics forever and ever. Rodney Orr, you all are subscribed to TiderInsider.com, so he'll join us tomorrow to talk about Alabama's recruiting. Alabama going to host another big recruiting weekend this coming up weekend, and Rodney's going to have it all covered for us tomorrow. So join us tomorrow at 1 o'clock right here on BamaCentral.com. Listen to us on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Music. Listen to us on Facebook. Watch us on Facebook and Twitter, on YouTube. Everybody you can get your podcast, Amazon Prime, everywhere that you get your podcasts, we're right there. This has been another edition of the Joe Gaither Show. For Chris Walsh, that's my boss. Follow him at Riding Walsh. Follow me at Joe Gaither 6. For you, the listener, I appreciate you guys, Julene and James, y'all commenting. I love it so much. I appreciate all the interaction. Y'all can comment on Facebook anytime you like. Right there at Joe Gaither 6. We'll talk to you tomorrow with Rodney Orr right here on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.